I don't know about y'all, but I just paid my taxes and they got me. Oh, they got me good. Oh, they got me real good. I was wondering if they would get me. And then they were like, no, we didn't forget about you. We think you're special. We would never forget. And I know they charged me extra. They got me charged me extra because they know I won't survive jail. So they're like, he gonna pay it. Just write a number. He'll make it happen. It's been great traveling this week. I've been able to go to Milwaukee, Madison, now Minneapolis and everything. When I was in Madison, there was something sort of curious that was happening. You know, I like being in Minneapolis because y'all smile an appropriate amount. You smile when something good is happening. You know what I mean? When I was in Madison, there were so many errant smiles. There were people just looking forward like, huh. I've never been in a city. I told them this too. I told them this to their face. I was like, y'all all walk like you walk into the light. Like, this is crazy. I try to be a jolly person, but this is insane. Nah, man, what? It was wild. And when I was there, I like when people are happy. I hope to make people happy, but when people got a little bit too much of it going on, I do have to get to the bottom of it. You know? And so I did do a couple things. It's something I like to do in any city when I see too many people smiling when I get there. I immediately go to that city's Yelp. Because I'm like, there are problems here somewhere. We just have to find where they are. You know what I mean? Not everything is a 5-star experience. Not everybody gonna give a 5-star. And it didn't take long. I found a 1-star. I won't name the establishment, but the review simply said, their old fashions taste like barbecue sauce. Let's be clear about something. You have to have such a fundamental understanding of how old fashions and barbecue sauce taste to take a sip of alcohol and go, nah, that's Sweet Baby Ray's. I know Sweet Baby Ray's. When I taste it, you're not slick just because you thinned it up a little bit. It's tough too, because when you're dealing with some of this happiness in different places, you wonder, did y'all get taxed? Do you know what I mean? They must have skipped over y'all if y'all so happy all the time. And I think sometimes taxes feel extra difficult because when you pay them, you feel like you're paying them for everything that happens next, not to pay for the life you were living up until that point. Does that make sense? Like it's like when you pay rent. You're paying rent to keep living there. But when it comes to taxes, you're mostly paying for everything that already happened, that you already enjoyed or didn't enjoy, depending on the city. And I think that if you got something back with your taxes, let's say you pay your taxes, they give you that tax return and everything. You can read all the numbers, why they say you owe what you owe or why you got back what you got back. And then they list next to that what they paid for with it. That might make people feel a little better, you know, because we don't know where our tax dollars go exactly. So then something happens and you feel like you're paying for that and you're like, this isn't what I paid for. And somebody should tell you, oh no, this isn't on you. That's not, that wasn't your money. You know what I mean? Like paying taxes as part of a country feels like when the bill comes and you got to split it, but you only got wings. Like, hey, I got 6 wings. right, there are 6 sets of bones in my basket. I didn't take any errant bites or anything. And some of y'all are alcoholics. I am not prepared to split this bill with you. You have your barbecue sauce old fashions. You have your... Not down for this. Because everybody's having some money troubles right about now. I mean, from all different ways. People are getting squeezed in lots of different directions, you know? Like we already know, tariffs are almost old news now. But the fallout isn't. The fallout is fresh. The Dow has only dropped by 1,000 points 11 times in history. And 4 of them were in like the last 2 months. Like this is very bad. If this were a roller coaster, this would be the part of the ride where your neck breaks. Like it's just... Engineers don't build this way. This is not safe. And you know, you see it through the tariffs. I've talked about it before, but those people on the money channels, they're still a bit nervous. Still freaking out, you know. They still come on every day. One of my favorite things about watching them now is they talk to us like we're the news. They're there doing the news, but they looking right in the camera like, I don't... What y'all think? Oh, it's bad. You know, like just this week, you know, you had people losing money in all sorts of ways. I mean, Christy Nome. Christy Nome was at a restaurant and got her bag stolen, right? And I don't know. It is wild. Okay, because then you have to... Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to put this. Okay, so then when you report your bag as stolen, right, and you gotta list the contents of your bag, you know, her bag had her driver's license in it, had her passport in it. She had $3,000 in cash in her bag. $3,000 in American dollars. $3,000 in cash. What you doing, Christy? That's $3,000. North American, South of Canada dollars. She had $3,000. That would make sense if this was like the 90s. You know, it's the 90s. You got it like that. You got 3,000 on you. You know, okay, you might see a food truck want to treat the town. $3,000 in cash in 2025. $3,000 in the year of our Lord Apple Pay. If I had been the cop that she reported to, that the business, and she told me, listen in the back, oh, my DHS badge, my passport, my driver's license, so much stuff was in there. I had a couple of Jolly Ranchers, and oh yeah, $3,000 in cash. I'd be like, do you rap or something? Like, why do you have that much cash on you? No, she had $3,000 in cash. But the kicker for me was she had a bunch of blank checks. I I don't even have to, yeah. You still write checks. In 2025, you just got that blank check on you just in case something pop off, and $3,000 in cash isn't enough. This is the most prepared to be mugged individual I've ever seen in my entire life. That is insane. You already got $3,000 in cash. Imagine you pull up on Christy, no, you're like, give me everything. And then she's like, here. You about to walk away. And then for whatever reason, you don't know why, you just feel led for one moment. You look over your shoulder back at her. And she got a pen. You said give you everything, you know. A bunch of blank checks. I don't even know if the thief would know what to do. Like, there used to be whole departments dedicated to check fraud. And now it's like 2 dudes. People are not writing checks like that anymore. I bet you they dump the contents out. They're like, oh, we score. We got $3,000 in cash. We got her DHS badge. I'm sure she's going to want that back. We got her passport, her driver's license. Oh, we got everything. Why she got a bunch of little papers with her name on it? Some people so conceited. No, because I had an incident happen to me when I was in college, where I left for the break, and when I got back, the RA, resident assistant, comes up to me as soon as I get back on campus, and she's like, hey, I'm going to walk with you to your room. Now, you could get in trouble at the school I was in. It was a dry campus. You could get in trouble for like having alcohol in your room, or like if they found anything. Sometimes if there was even a whisper of something in your room, they'd at least want to check it out. And so I didn't know if maybe somebody had said something. I lived in my own room. I had my own like dorm room by myself, and so I was like, I know nothing should be in there that I don't know about, unless maybe I left it unlocked, somebody put something in there, I don't know. So I'm kind of freaking out on the walk to get to my room, and then I go ahead, I open the door, and before I open the door, she's like, okay, don't freak out. And I was like, that's not how you start. It's the least helpful way. She's like, don't freak out. While people were gone on campus, there were a series of break-ins, and your room was one of the ones that was broken into. All right? Now, this isn't like me being like poor me, but everything I had is everything I had. Right? So I like the stuff that I left there, I have one of everything. All right? And same for the stuff at home. And so I'm opening the door thinking like, oh my gosh, like I don't have money to replace things that might be missing or broken, you know. So I open the door and my room is trashed. It's like fully ransacked and everything. And then she's like, you just make a list, okay? Make a list of everything that's missing, and we'll figure out if like the like Department of Public Safety on campus and the school at large can like help you recover some of it, or you know, maybe, who knows, maybe the school can like come up with the funds to help you get the stuff that was missing. And so I look around and I'm moving clothes out of the way and all this stuff. I opened my closet. They were in my closet too and everything. And it takes a little while, but quietly I realized to myself that they didn't take anything. This how embarrassing it is to get your place broken into? And a thief is like, I'm good. What do you do? What do you do? You know, I'm in my head, quietly walking around. You know, RA is still standing in the doorway and everything. I'm getting defensive in my head. I'm like, all right, I got a couple of good DVDs. All right, they not Fight Club fans. Like, no, I got a PS1. I know the PS3 is out, but I had a 1. They could pawn that. You know, they don't even have imagination. So finally the RA is like, so, anything? And I was like, yeah, they took my Gucci watch. I had 2 Chanel bracelets. You gotta put the bracelets down. Please write the bracelets down, okay? And I had about $3,000 in cash. No. It's difficult when people are feeling like they're squeezed so much financially. Like there are things that you have to pay. But the thing I guess that gets me sometimes when it comes to paying tax, I feel like some of the reluctance around it is that it feels like you work all year and then you get taxed for this money that's going to be spent on a bunch of things that you didn't agree to. It less like you worked all year and it's to pay for the things that we already enjoyed. Does that make sense? Like the framing of it, I think, is why people have such a problem. You know, like if you just sent back the tax return and then listed the stuff, yeah, I mean, we might be like, oh, I didn't know that I kept the bridge open. That's good. That's pretty good. I use that bridge every day. I'm glad it's not in shambles. That's fantastic news. You have to pay your taxes not just because the government is telling you to. It's not the government being some big bad meanie or something. It's you live here and you use the road, so maybe chip in so that it doesn't fall all the way apart, you know? And like that's not to say, really quick, that's not to say that I just pay my taxes blindly and love it and never question where it's going, because it is your money as well, so you deserve to have some say in where it goes. That's why we elect people to Congress. You know, it's why we pick the officials that we pick, even on a local level, because we're like, you work for me. You are my employee, and here are the things that I want to see. These are things that I don't want to see. It feels like in this moment we're in a real predicament of, I guess the best way I can describe it is I used to work at a store, and when I worked there, they promoted this one guy that was like, one of us, one of the cashiers. They promoted him, and they really shouldn't have done it. They clearly weren't paying attention. Like I was barely a good employee, and he was worse than me by far. And they promoted him. I was like, that blows my mind. And I wasn't jealous. It wasn't like I wanted a promotion. I felt like my duties to my level of commitment were right on par. Like I was like, let me stack the grapes, let me stock the shelves. Don't ask me to do more, and I promise not to do less, okay? Yep. But he was actively bad, and they promoted him. And a good example was he wanted to go to business school, and one of the assistant managers said, oh, I used to, go to business school. Like I graduated from business school. I tell you what, I will give you all my old business school books. I don't know how much of it will transfer, how much it will actually help you, but it can get you started before you actually start school. You might be able to learn some of the basic concepts. It'll help you, right? And that was a very nice thing to do. He didn't need to do that. I respected that very, very much. He saw somebody with a dream. He wanted to help them along, you know? And so he gave him these books. And I'm not even kidding. The next day, this dude comes to work and accidentally knocks over about a pallet's worth of wine because he was walking while reading the book. The book, I'm not even kidding, was called How to Understand Business. And this is who you promoted. You know, we're in the business of selling groceries. We buy groceries from places, we hold them until people want to buy them from us, and then we sell them to them. We're in the business of buying and selling groceries. He will stand in direct conflict with our ability to buy and sell groceries. And you've promoted him. You know, we're in a similar predicament now. As a country, we're in a similar situation because Pete Hegseth got in trouble again for the same thing from before. Basically, if you're not familiar, a bunch of people who are supposed to were using the app Signal to, you know, talk about war plans, and, you know, quick gist, they accidentally invited a journalist, and then the mission kicks off. They do the attack. The attack is successful, and everyone finds out, and they're like, "That was dumb. Don't do that again." And everybody was like, "We can't promise that. Like, that's not." Okay. Well, fast forward to rewind, we are in the same situation again, because unbeknownst to, I guess, anybody at the time, Pete Hegseth had not only been using Signal to discuss war plans, he had a whole other channel where he was just talking to his wife, his brother, and his personal attorney. And you couldn't. This is what genuinely bothers me. Like this is what actually upsets me about the whole thing. Some people are upset. They're like, I can't believe they were discussing such sensitive information that should have been, you know, they can say it's not top secret, they can say it's not classified, but it's at least something that we should hold tight until the mission happens. And he's just discussing it plainly on this app that could be hacked. And it's like those things. Discussing it with people who shouldn't know isn't actually my problem. Maybe this is you know, my own hot take, but I feel like that sort of thing happens all the time. I think anyone who's like married to someone in government, anyone who's married to someone high up in any business knows some things that they're not supposed to know. That's like human, actually. You don't think Michelle Obama? You don't think Michelle Obama was kept up at night knowing stuff she wasn't supposed to know? Do you know what I mean? You think Michelle Obama was in the White House like, Barack, what's wrong? And then Barack was like, it's classified. No. I don't think that happened. You know, I'm sure Michelle was in the White House minding her own business, you know, eating a veggie plate. Barack halfway kicks open the door. I've had it up to here with them. Okay? They want to kill everybody. They want to blow the world up. Now you sitting there, you Michelle, you like, oh, I don't even want my carrots anymore. Oh, no. The thing that bothers me is that Pete just couldn't be professional, you know, and wait for an hour till he got home to tell her in person. Like, just do it the way people normally do it. Walk in the door, be like, you won't believe. Like, that's the way you do it. But when I pay my taxes, I do get upset when I see it blatantly being misused. You know, like when Pete Hegseth is supposedly building a $40,000 studio in the Pentagon to do his makeup before he goes on TV. I'm like, that, if even $1 of that is mine, I'm very upset. Like, I'm not saying I'm the whole 40, but like, that's so insane. Secretary in the makeup room. Should he be at war? Like, every once in a while, you come into contact with somebody that you know from you know in a personal way, and eventually, maybe this has happened to some of you. You turn on local news and you see them, and you're like, I knew it was gonna be something. You know what I mean? Maybe it's the 8 o'clock, the 10 o'clock news, but they did something. You see that mug shot and everything. When I was in Chicago, I worked with this dude at our job, in the break room, we had a light sensor for the light switch. So you could just press it, lights come on, or, if nobody was in there or if you didn't move for long enough, lights go off, right? And one day, I'm walking into the break room, take my break, lights are off, I walk in, lights come on, and he's sitting there, already in the break room, eating barbecue. And let me go out on a limb right now and say that if you eat barbecue in the dark, you are a murderer, okay? You're already guilty in my mind. If you are that comfortable with bones in the dark, there's no telling what else you're capable of. If you are that comfortable slipping and sliding on your teeth and tongue, barbecue is messy enough in the light. You should have seen his face when the lights came on. It was insanity. And then I walk in and he not even, if it were me and that happened, because I try to put myself in his shoes. I try to be empathetic. I'm like, okay, let's say you eating barbecue in the break room on your break, right? Kind of a heavy meal for a 15-minute break, but to each their own, you know what I mean? You go be sleepy when you come back, but I want everybody to enjoy their life. So let's say you're eating barbecue in the break room and you are somehow doing it so still I'm not saying he should be hitting the rib like corn on the cob. You know what I mean? I'm not like I'm not saying he should be digging into it with his face. Like, in case you're wondering, that is, at least in my mind, the sound you make when you eat barbecue in the dark. Like that. If you eat barbecue in the dark, you don't eat it like the rest of us. The rest of us chew like civilized people, but if you in the dark eating barbecue, you are wilding out. You're doing whole other sounds and effects that the rest of us don't do, you know? I'm not saying that you need to be doing a bunch of extra movements when you eat your barbecue. I'm just saying if you're doing it so still, you know, munch, munch, munch. Munch, munch, munch. Munch, 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 munch. Munch, munch, yum. Munch, 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 munch. If you're doing it so subtle that a light sensor, that technology was like, ain't nobody in the room. And then they decide to shut the lights off on you, and you still did not feel led to change the conditions of your meal. If you were eating barbecue in the break room and then the lights go off and you're like, that's even better. That tells me you're not right in the head. Something is going on with your mind or your spirit. Something is evil in you. Munching away. And then you think to yourself, oh, what if someone walks in? What if someone walks in and feels like, this is awkward, this is weird. I would hate for them to judge me and my entire personality based off of one instance, you know? Maybe I should get up and paw my way, if the lights don't come on, to the light switch and press it so the lights come on and the room is once again filled with God's holy light. I even tried to extend that olive branch and be like, you know what? He probably didn't want to get barbecue sauce on the switch. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he thought if he was flinging his hands, he'd get barbecue sauce on the walls. That would look even scarier because now I walk in, the wall's red, you got a bone in your hand, you munching away. Really try to put myself in that headspace. Try to be fair to him. And after I got through thinking all those thoughts, I was like, no, the whole thing was weird. No, I was right. It's insane. Okay. Side note. I left that job, right? And one day I was catching up with a different coworker. I was telling them what happened, right? I was like, hey, I was super weird. Like I get in there and, you know, he'd been in the dark, so he wasn't fazed. It wasn't like something just happened and I walked in right after or whatever. And they were like, oh, you know what? I didn't want to tell anybody. But the same thing happened to me. Which means on a different day, this man was eating barbecue so gentle that he lost the light again. And this dude, okay, so look, so my coworker told me, they were like, no, okay, so when I walked in, that light, I think, was genuinely broken because I walked in and it was still dark. Like it didn't just come on because I swung the door open, right? So we at least know now he didn't turn the lights off on himself. Because I did worry about that. I did worry that man took his break, went to the break room with his barbecue, knew what he was about to do, knew how unchristian he was about to behave. Set the barbecue down on the table and was like, nobody needs to know. But yeah, so apparently there was a problem with the light in the break room, and they were like, yeah, but when I walked in, he was eating the barbecue, and I'm pretty sure he was choking. Which would make you feel bad for him for a second, until you really put yourself in that situation. Because if you walk in to a dark room, you assume nobody's in there. And the sound of someone choking on barbecue in a dark room does sound like a demon. It does sound. If you walk in and start, No, do it real quick. Close your eyes. Close your eyes real quick. I want everybody to close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Piece of brisket getting caught in the back of your throat, and now you sound like Beelzebub. No. And so then when the light when the light from the door spilled in, they saw him. And they couldn't really make him out. Because they were kind of blocking the light themselves, just standing in the doorway. And they said that they just saw him, like, eating in the corner. Which, why are you facing the wall? I forgot to mention that. That happened to me too. He was facing the wall. It's already dark. You don't need to worry about being seen. But he's facing the wall going... I was like, what did you do? What did you do when that happened? And they were like, I thought it was a demon. I yelled out loud, I rebuke you. And then I closed the door. Oh, man. So then, you know, I'm chilling in my apartment in Chicago and watching the news. And I see a mugshot with a familiar face who had been arrested for trying to rob a barbecue restaurant. It's especially tough right now because I think people are getting squeezed from more angles than we thought was possible, right? It's like, you know, wages aren't increasing, jobs are hard to come by because of layoffs. Some of the layoffs are like the seasonal layoffs when, you know, companies restructure and everything, things that we're actually used to. But then some of them are people losing their jobs in government. Some people are losing their jobs in the private sector in place of potential like AI advancements and stuff, all while you have the tariffs going on. And I truly believe that some of it is preventable. Obviously, there's going to be ebbs and flows with every economy. There's going to be ebbs and flows with every country throughout its history of how rich it is or how markets fluctuate. Some of these are unforced errors, and some of these are things that just happen, but it's all happening at one time, you know? And I think very basically, I wish everyone could agree on it, but we're not there yet, that just by being human, just by virtue of being alive, you deserve access to basic necessities, the most basic of things, right? And especially if you're working. If you are working full time and you're still struggling to get the basic, we're talking about food, water, and shelter. We're talking about the most basic things. And I think sometimes when you bring up the people who are having a rough time, they're having a rougher go of it than is just, right? Life isn't fair, but you build the scale so that things can level out, so that they can be just. And when you talk about people who are having a rough time, who need extra help to try to get level, and they're working, they're doing their best. I think people conflate that with people who want luxuries, or they want something for free. These people are already working. We are the hardest working country in the world. We clock more hours than anybody else, and we every year have less and less to show for it. We have less to show in healthcare, we have less to show in education and possibility of upward mobility. Every year we we work harder, and every year we have less. We take less vacation days than pretty much anyone in the world, and for all of our hard work, we are not seeing the fruits of our labor. And there are people who will tell you, oh, but if you just work a little bit harder, if you just do it this way, oh, I'm smart, I figured it out, you will too. It's people who are not addressing the fact that everyone does not get a fair shake. You know, like, you only need to look at me as an example. You don't think I want to be in the NBA? I did everything that I was supposed to do. I ate my greens. All right, I shot the ball. I did the running. I did everything. But trust me, if I show up to an open tryout and shoot my shot for whatever team will have me, they will be calling security. All right. And finances work in a similar way. I'm not coming down on anybody who came up well, went to a good school, and then through that good school, you made a connection which got you your job, which affords you your lifestyle. I'm not saying you don't work hard. I'm saying everyone doesn't have that same opportunity, you know? And I think that at the very basis, right? At the very basis of food, water, and shelter, people get it in their head that even shelter means, oh, a lavish house or something. Lavish. I'm not talking about lavish things. I'm talking about enough to get by. Everyone is fighting to get by. When you talk to people who don't have about what they want, they just want to be level. You know, they're not asking for expensive, lavish things like outdoor furniture. Patio furniture is ridiculously expensive. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's literally outside. You don't even want it in your home. It's almost trash. I don't care how comfortable it is. You literally let it get rained on. You know, you buy it from a store, and then you bring it inside for a second just to take it out to the backyard and leave it there. And it's too expensive. It's crazy. In fact, when the outdoor furniture is inside, that's when you know it's bad. When I was living with some friends in college, their lawn chairs were the chairs. And I was like, we in a bad situation. We're not doing well. You got the patio furniture in front of the TV. We about to die tomorrow. Whew. Yeah. You know? It's bad. It's bad. And it shouldn't be this bad, you know? You work. You pay your taxes, things should come back to benefit you. And it's still, that there's a narrative that's going on that's got all of us really going after and arguing with each other. As if there's limited resources, as if there's limited money, as if there's limited opportunity, and we know there's not. We know that there's actually plenty to go around. Even with the hundreds of millions of us that are in this country, there's plenty to go around because we know how much billionaires have. Because they make it known how much they have, you know? Like you see how much land they own, and you're like, that is a lot of people could live there. That's crazy. Or you know that CEO that said he wanted to own all the water. It's like, that's something you keep to yourself. What a sociopathic thing to say. Oh, I want all the water. You can't even drink it. What's wrong with you? That's what kills me. It's like people think that it's solely government. People think that it's their job. They think it's not. I promise it's not. And what really burdens me, what keeps me up at night, is that these people are siphoning all this money. They siphon it from the government. They get benefits from the government. They get tax cuts from the government. They siphon all this money. They siphon your wealth from you. They siphon it in wages by the fact that they don't increase. They siphon it off of like shrinkflation when they act like they cry poor and then they charge you more for less. They siphon all this money, all to what end? To have a few people have all that money, all of that money, more money than anyone will ever need in their lifetime. And you know it because they don't spend it. They siphon all of this money out. They are literally parasitic. And then they dress like me. That's so crazy. You have all the money in the world and you look like me. What are you doing? That's so crazy. Oh, it doesn't have to be this way. And I know sometimes you can feel powerless, especially when the big thing is happening, when the big thing is just going, you know. But it does, with a movement towards any action that is based in the people's wishes, it has to come to fruition in any instance. And you see it all over the world. You see people rise up in whatever form it takes to make their voices heard. And it's still very much possible. I know that there's a narrative out there that you're like a cog, that there's nothing you can do, and that you might as well just scrounge up as many pennies as you can to get by, and that'll be the best you can ask out of life. You know, it's to the point now where even people who cross over that $1 million threshold, they enter that tax bracket, they still feel that way. You could make $500,000. You could have $300,000 saved up, and you might sell something within your company, make another $200,000. You might cross that $1 million threshold, even by just a little bit, and still be like, I'm barely getting by. And people roll their eyes at that. They scoff at that. But the way that things are set up, unless you are uber rich, is very easy to drop right out of that tax bracket. None of that is certain. You know, small business owners, some of them could be considered millionaires, but they'll tell you, they're like, my actual business and the people that I care for, the employees that I employ that depend on me for their benefits, for their livelihood, it's like we are month to month, right? So this structure doesn't end at just taking care of yourself. And it's why everybody, to the best of our ability, we have to be looking at the whole. The way that they play it is the way that benefits them every single time. Someone who's already a billionaire would love for you to just try to be like me. You can do it if you work hard enough. That's the narrative out there. They don't talk about how many government benefits they get, how many tax cuts they get, that they were born rich. They don't let any of that into the story because it would kind of ruin the whole thing. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's literally, it's up to you, because we're already there. We're already in a place where I don't see how things are just going to get better by themselves. People are putting burritos on layaway. That's insane. That's so crazy. There are apps now that they come to you and they're like, hey, we'll let you finance your lunch, dog. You know, pay $3 now, we got you. And they do. They have you. And they don't let go. And before you know it, it's been a month, and that burrito that was $12 when you didn't have it is $65 now when you're done paying for it. And it wasn't worth it. And it's siphoned more from you. The things that weren't already taken. They can take your wealth. They're taking it now. They cannot take your worth. If you know your worth, if you remember your worth, and you fight for it every day, and you fight for it with who you vote for, you go to your town halls and you speak to them and you let them know, we hired you, you work for us, we pay our taxes, go tell them that this is done. It doesn't have to be this way. We can demand more, and the thing that we're demanding is not some sort of handout. We're demanding our work back to us in proportion for how hard we've worked. These people believe, they genuinely believe that they built this company up by themselves, as if there's some idea truly as a self-made man. It's like, even if you built a company and you ship the things to the people, and they love your product and they want more of it. And you think you're such a genius. There are people driving that truck. There are people packing up those packages. And then there's the road that you didn't build. You know? In what world should it be like this? That's crazy. And then the narrative gets put back on us that we deserve these pennies, that we deserve such a small share of the thing that we helped build. Look around. Really look around when you walk around your city. Really look around when you travel. Wherever you go in America, no matter who you are, we built this. We built this together. We built it. And I'm not even saying that these like titans of industry don't hold a part in it. I'm not discounting someone having an idea and through ingenuity bring it to fruition to the point where they employ people, to the point where people depend on them. But there are responsibilities that come with that sort of thing. You know, I wanted to start a candy company, and I was like, nah, I'm actually going to be a terrible boss. I'd be a terrible boss. You know, I'd be in there in the candy factory eating all the chocolate, making myself sick. And then when people come to the factory to look at our chocolate, they'd be like, the boss is in the bathroom throwing up again because he's a child that can't stop himself. And that's why I didn't start a business, because I was like, you know, there are other people that are better at it. It's tough. You know, you shouldn't be put in a position where you got to put barbecue that you eat in the dark on layaway. Like that's I don't know if y'all saw everything that's happening with Tesla either. That's crazy stuff. Okay, so basically, if you're not aware, Tesla is an electric vehicle that, you know, rewind just a couple of years was not a political statement at all. It was a car you could buy or not buy. It was just a car on the market that had some stock, and the stock would go up and go down and go up and go down. And then, you know, Elon Musk decides to get involved with politics and gives anywhere from like $250 to I think maybe $270 million to Trump's campaign. And then Trump wins and Elon becomes the president. And so Elon becomes the president, and people don't really know how to feel because this particular thing hasn't happened before. There's always been like millionaires and billionaires donating to campaigns and stuff like that, but this is the most like infused a person has been in like what's gonna happen, and it's very clear in what is self-serving when it comes to like Elon's actions and everything. And so then, you know, inauguration day comes, and there's all the fanfare of like this new administration is starting. And there are some people who own Teslas already, like they bought theirs in 2022. And they would tell people, hey, I bought mine in 2022. Like, I don't. Just so you know, I got mine in 2022. I didn't know, and I wasn't a part of it. And I was trying to get an electric vehicle to help the environment. I didn't know it would be. So, just so you know about me. And then Elon's giving a speech, and then he says, my heart goes out to you. And then he does like a full-on Nazi salute, right? And does it again for clarity. And there is a part of me that genuinely, when someone buys something, especially something expensive, and then something happens with that company, a part of me does feel for them, because there are people who bought their Tesla in 2022. They might have been sitting in their Tesla when they saw Elon do a Nazi salute, like. and now you sitting here, you gotta lease this car. I don't know if y'all saw, but Trump released the JFK files, or at least is starting to release the JFK files, and yeah, it's a lot. He said there's like 80,000 pages or something. I think they've released like anywhere from like 2 to 20,000 already, with more to come and stuff. And I don't know about anybody else, but when it comes to JFK and the conspiracies around his death, those were like some of the first moments that you saw, for at least a wide population of Americans, trust in government and its agencies break. A trust that they've never got back since, where like whole government agencies don't have the trust of the people, because up until then, you know, maybe they classified things, maybe they told the public lies or whatever, but they were things that people felt like they could at least get on with life believing. You know, JFK was the first thing for a lot of people that spawned the real like tinfoil hat stuff, what aren't they telling us sort of thing. And so you would see something like this big release of the files, you know, 20,000 with like 60,000 more to come. And it's kind of crazy that everyone sees that and they're like, nah, I'm good. 80,000 pages? I don't think JFK cares that much. That's 80,000 pages. Game of Thrones isn't 80,000 pages. 80,000 pages is insane. What are you doing? You know, it's like the thing is full. It's full. I've read some of it, and it's full of things that are snapshots of the time that JFK was assassinated in, but they aren't things that people were looking for. When people talk about files that they want released, they're talking about things that probably have been destroyed forever, like the some of the autopsy files, some of the coroner's notes, all that stuff like that is not in what's been released. What's been released are the goings on of like Cuba, Mexico City, USSR, and everything. And the one thing that we did find out for sure through the release of the files is that the CIA had a much bigger file and much more knowledge of Lee Harvey Oswald than we previously thought. And they had been tracking his movements and everything. He had been going to these different countries. I'm pretty sure he went to Mexico City for a little bit, and then he went to the USSR, and I don't know if the word is defect, but he basically was trying to leave the U.S., become an expat and join USSR, and even tore up his passport and everything. And the USSR was like, nah, we good. That's crazy to me. That's someone, you have a CIA file on you, and you're trying to move to the USSR, and they are like, you giving off some bad vibes. Like, I don't know what it is, but you creeping everybody out. Like, you stare too much, dog. Like, what are you looking at when you're looking over here? It's unsettling. Just take that somewhere else. And so then he came back somehow. Didn't seem like he had a problem coming back, even though he tore up his passport. And then commits the assassination, and then Jack Ruby kills Lee Harvey Oswald. And there were so many people who thought that Jack Ruby's mob ties meant that he was sort of there to close up loose end, you know, that maybe the mob did it. And even now there are people that say, oh no, the mob did it, Cuba did it, the Soviets did it. I think that when you're going through all these pages and you're reading this stuff that we're learning about how much the CIA and the FBI actually knew and didn't do anything, it doesn't really surprise me. It doesn't do much for me in the way of a revelation. And it's probably just because, you know, because I'm black. I mean, as a black guy, I'm not going to sit here and be like, not the CIA. You mean to tell me the CIA? Next, you're going to be talking about the FBI. Guys, no, not at all. Because that's the thing. That's what trips me up too. Is all these pages are getting released. There are things that were released during Trump's first administration that were redacted pretty heavily, and then they've been re-released, not redacted, right? Or just one line redacted. So much so that there are people that are actually mad at Trump because they're like, that some of that stuff, some of those people are still alive. What are you doing? You know what I mean? And so then, you know, you'll have like one little line that's redacted, and you'll have someone obsess over that specific line because it's not finding the truth for them. It's about keeping the conspiracy going, you know? Because you'll even see, they uploaded it to the archives. You can check it out in the archives right now. They uploaded everything they've uploaded so far. In my opinion, they've done pretty badly. I think they just had a scanner and they were like, he said today, so... I know it's crooked. I know it's crooked. I know it's crooked. He said today. I know. Some of this, honestly, I looked at some of the files, some of it, some of the handwriting in some of the notes, whether it's written by a CIA agent or like some politicians, some of the notes in there are so bad. Like the handwriting is so bad. I'm like, he did it. Like that's suspicious as hell handwriting. No. Little thing, little line will be redacted. Oh, that's what they don't want you to see. That's where all the truth is. It's like, look, maybe. I'm not even saying that's not possible. Maybe, but also. Maybe it's just like an address that makes sure that a person who has nothing to do with this doesn't get implicated. You know, there are all types of reasons to redact something. And it's when people put that much weight on the thing to keep the whole thing going that I'm like, you don't want to know. You want to keep guessing, you know? And don't get me wrong, it's fun to guess. I love guessing. I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. Sometimes I'm just guessing. You know, best way I can describe it is I'm a fight fan, so I watch boxing, I watch MMA and stuff like that. And I watch men's fights, I watch women's fights, and I just kind of follow the fighter and follow their journey and enjoy who I enjoy because I like the person. I like their story, right? And there was this young woman. I do not know if she is from Brazil. I think she is because I'm pretty sure she was speaking Portuguese, and she only speaks Portuguese. She doesn't speak English. So after fights, when someone wins, especially if they don't speak the language, they will do the post-fight interview right there. And they might do another press conference later, but they'll do the post-fight interview. And if they do not speak the language, someone will come out, a translator for the promotion will come out. And in this case, her translator was her coach. So she wins the fight, and it's big. It's the biggest fight that she's won of her career. It puts her in the rankings and everything. And so the announcer walks up, and he's like, "Congratulations on a fantastic fight. Was this win mean to you? It's sort of putting you on the map right now against such a tough opponent." And she speaks for like 8 seconds, and then her coach goes, "Thank you so much, everybody, for watching my fight. I really appreciate it. I worked really hard, and thank you so much for the love." And then she speaks for another 8 seconds, and the coach is like, "Everything that I do, I'm doing for y'all at home, from my town, to show you that no matter what, where you're from, you can make it on the world stage." And then the announcer asks her, what are your future plans? What's next for you? You know, now that you're in the rankings, there's a certain opponent you want to call out. And she speaks even shorter this time, for like 6 seconds. And then her coach is like, "Yeah, the next plans are anybody who wants it, all right? I'm taking heads, I'm taking necks.
I want your limbs. Give me your arms. Give me your legs. If I see you on the street, it's already on. You already know. The best thing you could do is drop out of the division right now, because I'm coming for all y'all's necks. I'm killing everybody, all right? You're going to dream about me, and then when you wake up, I'm going to be there. That's on God, okay? I'm killing all of y'all. None of y'all can stop me. None of y'all can touch me. What I did to her was a mercy killing. I'm coming to kill y'all for real. I want your bodies, okay? I'm stacking bodies, all right? And the champ, I'm going to beat the champ, and I'm going to beat the brakes off the champ in her hometown. She's going to bleed in front of her people, okay? And then they exited the octagon. They went ahead and left, and then there was a fighter, because fighters watch other fighters' fights, and they'll live tweet it, and he tweeted right after that whole thing. She ain't say all that. And I'm not gonna lie, that's what those redacted lines feel like to me sometimes, where I'm just like, yeah, look, maybe the whole truth is in the one sentence, but maybe it's in the 80,000 pages that nobody feels like reading. Because Trump said he was going to release JFK files, and he slowly released them over time, I guess. And then there were people that were like, well, why won't you release the Epstein files? The Epstein files are what we want. That's what we're actually focused on. Why won't you release the Epstein files? Is it because you actually knew Epstein? Is it because you might be implicated? Is it because you were on the flight logs? Why won't you release the Epstein files? All right. And then he does release the Epstein files. But what he does is he releases a bunch of files that were already released like last year, and then redacts some of them to make them look like they're newly half redacted files. And then people called it online immediately. They were like, no, this isn't it at all. And then even the people who were like showing it off and like, look at this transparency, then they got mad because they were like, you made us look like idiots. We thought you were releasing stuff you hadn't released before. And so then people called again, why aren't you releasing the Epstein files? So if you're Trump, you're probably sitting here, the only thing you can do is release the Epstein files and hope it's 100,000 pages. Who would have known the only distance between people and getting to the truth was reading? You know what I mean? We want to know. We as a people have the right to know. It's 80,000 pages. I'm going to wait till the movie come out. All right? But what are you going to do? Elon's the president. We know he's the president because, first of all, he tells everybody to report to him, sending whole government employees emails telling me everything you did. It's like, isn't some of that classified? It's wild. You stand in the Oval Office talking about what we're doing. It's like, who is we? Got your son in there. That's how you could tell Trump not the president. Got Elon's son rubbing his boogers on him. I've had a lot of jobs and a lot of bosses, and no boss's child has ever rubbed boogers on me. I will quit before I let your child rub boogers on me. Elon is the face of Tesla, and he's also the face of Doge, this department that's been cutting all these government jobs and gutting a lot of government programs and everything. And I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of people across the political spectrum about Doge, about their actions, and from the time it started to present, right? So some people are like, oh yeah, it's a little bit much now that we're very much on its side. There are some people that still don't see a problem. There's some people that hate it from the very beginning. But one thing that I have not come across, and I only speak for myself, I'm not talking about I can't speak for the entirety of the internet. One thing I've come across is that there is no one who I have come across that says that there's no waste in the government. and that they don't want to get to the bottom of what can be saved or what can be put to better use somewhere else. I think that's what generally everybody would want. If you pay your taxes and then you see where money's being wasted, it's like, oh, we have so many people who need that money in other departments, just move it over to them or give it back to the people, or whatever the thing is. I don't think people inherently are upset about the idea that there's waste in the government. I know people that work in the government, they're like, this is a little waste. And so all of it comes down to what you cut and how you do it. That's it, top to bottom. That's the only thing anybody could really have a problem with, what you cut and how you do it, right? And I'll be vulnerable for a second. I'll admit to you right now, I've worked jobs. I've worked jobs where I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody, but like, they really don't need me. Like, as long as they paying, I'll keep showing up, but like... And you end up seeing what happens. Because the thing with, whether it's voters or whether it's like rhetoric around how to handle this stuff, there are people who even now genuinely believe, oh, let's get a business person. Let's get someone who's good at business in government so they can run the government as efficiently as they run their business, right? And the problem there is that, like, let's say Amazon. A good example is like, let's say Amazon makes a mistake. And they make a mistake that all of us, everyone here, can acknowledge and see as a mistake. And so as a mistake, their stock drops because they lose some of the faith from their shareholders. Now, we see that drop in the stock, and maybe the mistake they make is they announce that all the cars from now on gonna have 3 wheels. Like, oh, we're gonna save so much money on tires. And we're like, no, you're gonna flip over, okay? And so then you see the stock start to dip because of that lack of confidence. And then for you as a potential investor, even a retail investor, that dip in the stock is an opportunity. You can buy in now. You can buy into that dip, and then when it goes back up, because they realize that 4 is probably best, that you can ride that wave on up. Fair enough. When you crash... When you crash out a business, when you make mistakes in business, when you run a poor business, you can always start another business. The people who we even look up to as these beacons of industry were all people at some point who had a failed business, right? But the government is not a business, because if you crash out the government, if you make the same mistakes with the government, you don't have a country. And you can't just be like, no, we're just going to start new America. You know, I used to have like a lemonade stand America, and that one didn't really work out, so I started like a tire shop America, and that still really wasn't it. So then I started this hedge fund America, and now we're cooking. It does not work that way. And you saw what happened. You saw Elon run the government because he's the president. You saw Elon run the government the way he ran his business. When Elon took over Twitter, right? He comes into Twitter and he immediately starts firing everybody because he's like, you're waste, you're redundant, I don't know what you do, I don't know what that is, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. And then a couple days after he took over, remember that brief period where he was like, how do you turn it on? And then someone who still worked there, who he didn't fire, was like, oh, you fired the dude who turned it on. Yeah, you asked me for a list of people to fire. I'm not going to put my name on the list. So and so you see, you end up seeing Elon firing people and then trying to like hire them back real quick and trying to like smooth over the things that he broke that didn't need breaking, you know? And then Doge ends up working the same way. It ends up swooping in and firing a bunch of people and then trying to hire some of them back real quick. And It's chaos. And Elon is the face of it. He's the face of it because we didn't know who else was working in Doge. We didn't know who was essentially like hacking into Social Security, who was going around judges' orders, who was breaking things and going to places they weren't supposed to be because we hadn't figured out how this whole thing was going to work. We didn't know. And then we found out. We found out that it was children. We found out they leaked the photos of those people that were high up in Doge, that were getting into Social Security and the IRS and everything. And we were like, what? Fresh out of school, I saw one kid's picture who was like high up in Doge doing all the breaking in and stuff. And I was like, Peter Parker? I cannot believe that Spider-Man gonna cut off my grandma's Social Security. So I don't think it was anyone saying like there's no waste, but it's what you cut and how you cut it. You know, I think people would have appreciated like an actual audit. They said that they did one, but usually when you do an audit and you really account for the waste and you really account for what jobs you do and don't need, you don't have to hire anybody back. You know? The amount of people that they fired and then tried to immediately rehire shows that they're not actually being as careful as they should be with the process. Because I'll tell you right now, everyone that has ever fired me stood firm in their decision. I've never been fired and then somebody ran out after me. Hold on. That's my bad. I was wild. I was trying to look good in front of the other employees. You come on back in here. That has never happened. Anyone who has ever fired me has never called me again. But then Elon is the face of him. People don't know what to do. They don't know what to do to express their anger and their disappointment, their frustration about this unelected person gutting these government programs. And you see where people, it's not just like a one-sided thing. It's not just like a liberal thing. You know, there are people who are like, I voted for Trump. I believe in what Doge is doing, but then I'm told that I'm being cut because of bad performance, even though I'm holding right here a performance review for like a month before the election where they said that I was doing great, you know. And so then people across the political spectrum are going to the town halls and they're complaining to the representatives, and the representatives, they're not really hearing them out. They're not really backing them up. So there's even more frustration, and it's bubbling up, and it's bubbling up. And he's the face of two things. He's the face of Doge, and he's the face of Tesla. And so then people go to the Tesla dealership, and he's not there. But people go to the Tesla dealership and they start protesting at the Tesla dealership, and then the stock starts tanking because there are people that are like, being attached to this right now is not a good look, you know. And then people start vandalizing Teslas, start putting swastikas on the Teslas and stuff like that. And then there are people who, you know, bought a Tesla in 2022. They're like, guys, I didn't know. I had no idea. And almost immediately, it felt like almost immediately Trump came to his defense, right? Trump invited Elon to the White House. I mean, he already got an office there because it's his White House. He's the boss. He's the president. But Trump told Elon, hey, bring a bunch of Teslas, park them out front of the White House. We'll do a dealership commercial. This man got in the Tesla. Trump got in the Tesla, was like, everything's computer. Which is not wrong. It's not wrong. I remember my first Tesla experience. You know, I didn't ride in a Tesla for a long time. I heard about it as a car, but I didn't get to be in one, and I don't drive, so I didn't try to drive one or anything. And my first Tesla that I ever got in was an Uber. And so when I walked up, I didn't know about the door. I didn't know the door would be all smooth like that. So this is me. Look, I'm admitting for a second. I'm being vulnerable here. I'm admitting for a second that this is me. This is my bad. I was doing too much in my head. I was doing too much, all right? Know that I know that before I even admit this to you. I was doing too much, right? But when I walked up to the Tesla, I thought my driver sucked the door in because I was black. And I was standing there like, never in all my days have I seen this type of racism. I was fierce. It was all smooth and everything. And so finally, driver noticed I'm not getting in the car, so he rolled down the window. I lean over all indignant like... And then he started explaining how to open it. I was like, what do you mean you gotta push to pull? That doesn't even make sense. And then I get it with my thumb and I was like, oh. Oh, okay. Got in the Uber, we took off. And this is the thing with the gig economy jobs, right? Is that, how do I put this? There's a social contract we have not written yet on like how much this is like your property versus my time versus our experience, right? And so when I get in an Uber, I'm very respectful of the fact that this is this person's car. This isn't my car, right? I'm not renting it so it can be my car for a little while. And we're sharing this time together, but it is my time that I'm paying for, so that's what makes me the customer, you know? So I try to not make any waves. I get in an Uber and I'm just like whatever they need to do. Sometimes there are people who start driving Uber very, very early, so they're tired, and so they got to blast themselves with cold air. They have to have their window down, and I'm like, I'd rather that than us die warm, you know what I mean? So I don't say anything. I'm like, I'll just be uncomfortable on the way to the airport because that's what's keeping this man awake. And this is the person that showed up to drive me, right? So I almost never say anything. It's a very big deal for me to even try to say anything. And I go ahead and I do it though. I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm not like, I usually don't do this or anything. But you know, I leaned over to him and I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. But could you please like, touch the wheel, like. No, I know it's autopilot. I know it's autopilot. You put it in and everything. I just don't know what I'm paying for if we going. Like if we. Like I'm not telling you how to drive. I'm telling you to drive. Like it would be nice if you did drive. Like. Just put a finger up. Make me believe. Just put a finger. And so you see all of these attacks on Tesla increasing, and the stock price dips and dips and dips, and it goes up a little bit. Every once in a while it goes up because there's some people who don't care about any of this at all, and they see it as an opportunity to buy low, and so it'll go up a little bit, maybe like 3-4% here, and then it drops a little bit more, and it's down from its high by a lot. And you've even seen people like in the Trump administration come out and say, hey, if you vandalize a Tesla, we're treating it as domestic terrorism. We're coming for you if you touch a Tesla, right? And it's just baffling because everything that Trump is doing for Elon and everything that his administration is doing for Tesla is exactly what they were supposed to do for the voters. You know what I mean? Like Trump saw that his boy was having a little dip, was like a little bit more broke than he was the day before. He was like, let me help you out. You know what I mean? That felt like a campaign promise that I thought he made to everybody, but apparently he was just talking to 3 people. And even going after people who vandalize a Tesla as domestic terrorism. Like, when do we ever talk about domestic terrorism? You know how much domestic terrorism we have? It's a lot. And then you see Elon go on the news, and genuinely he seems like really upset, like genuinely hurt. And I think it's because, look, he's still the richest man in the world, but he used to be the richest man in the world by a larger margin. Like, he has lost billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? And he's so affected by it. And I think that maybe he's so affected by it because when these things are such a part of your life, they do become your identity. Maybe being richest man in the world, maybe being seen as this, like, this business guru, this scientific mind, all that stuff crumbles away when the people are not with you, when the people can't stand you, when you've angered them, when they don't want to have anything to do with you, And he sees the destruction, he sees the people turning on him, and he seems genuinely upset. And I don't think his feelings are hurt because some people are mad at him. He's never going to meet these people. I think that when you attach so much of your self-worth to this money and this status, this influence and this power, even the prospect of losing it can rattle you deep down, right? To your core as a person. And it looks like he's about to cry on the news when he's talking about, I don't know what I did to deserve this. It's like... And look, I'm glad he said that to a camera by himself and not, like, to a veteran's face. Like, he didn't really get that. The dude on Fox was like, you've done nothing to deserve this. You're a true patriot, whatever he said. And, I was sitting here watching Elon get genuinely sad. And I was like, oh. It still sort of blows my mind. I can't believe it, if I'm being honest. I can't believe that they agreed to do it. Like, both of them agreed to. Like, Trump and Biden are going to debate. They both agreed to debate. This was crazy about them debating. We know how we feel. Like, it's weird that both of them were like, you know what'll do it? You know what'll lock it up? If I talk one more time. That's what the people want, you know what I mean? They want to see me at the booth. That's what. No, it feels crazy. There will be, I can only tell you this. It's months away, I'm sure. But whenever it happens, the only loser will be us. We will... Both those dudes are going to talk and interrupt. It's going to be a hell show. And then everyone's going to walk away like their dude won. And I do my best to be honest with you and be honest with myself. It does make me nervous, and I think everybody's nervous. I think all parties involved are nervous. I'm nervous for Biden to debate because I'm nervous when Biden talks. Don't be like that, You know what I mean? Like, I think this is the best way I can relate it. Because Biden starts sentences ambitious. The way I relate to how Biden talks is, when I first moved to Chicago, right? I didn't have much. And I moved, and and I really wanted to clear my head because I was overwhelmed with the move, right? And I was like young, but I was still scared. I didn't feel like I knew enough people to really have like a support system or anything. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna learn the area. I'm just gonna go for a walk, and without my phone. I don't want to be in my phone. I want to learn the neighborhood. I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna clear my head. So then I left my phone at the apartment, and I just went for a walk, and it felt good. It felt genuinely great to just not have people texting me, not be getting notifications on my phone, not get distracted from anything by my phone, and just look at what a beautiful city I had just moved to. And the weather was nice. Y'all would have appreciated it. It was very sunny. All the white people were smiling at me. It was, you know, black people too, but just there's a certain, I don't know. And you know, after a while, you know, 10, 20 minutes, I don't know, I didn't have my phone. So I don't know how much time had passed, but I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm feeling good, I feel better, let's go back. And I turned around and I was like, uh-oh. Because I just moved to a new city, and I knew my address, but I didn't know much else. I don't know how many lefts I took, like I was just sort of following the sunlight. I was letting them lead me, and then, you know, now I'm like, uh-oh. And so it took quite a while. It took a much longer walk than I anticipated for me to get back home, and that's what every sentence Biden says feels like. It feels like, because you can see when he ready. When those first two words in, it's like when somebody try to run and they can't really run, because it's like he start off hard, and then by the middle, you can see in his eyes, he's like, oh, where was I? And then by the end of the sentence, he's like, I think I stuck it. I think you know, so I'm nervous for Biden to talk. And I know Trump's team is nervous for him to talk, not just because this debate is going to have certain stipulations, like they're going to cut his mic if he goes over time. There's all this stuff. I think that genuinely Trump's team is like, he's finally going to say it. We've managed to go 9 years without him saying it, but he gonna slip. He gonna say it. I don't think it'll even be in like reference to black people. He's just gonna say it. But he gonna be talking about fruit or something, like even racist people will be like, huh. That's not how I use it. He's so creative. I will say, you know, people go on and on about Trump being racist. That man is way more weird than he is racist. Trump's racism is like here. His weirdness is top notch. Because like I gotta watch a lot of the news. For work, I have to watch a ton of news. I have to watch not everything because it's not humanly possible, but I have to watch things over again. I have to go back. I've watched so many of his rallies, right? I've watched a ton of rallies. And he has a thing at his rallies where it feels like a wrestling match. I can understand why people enjoy going. I do. I get it. Because it's politics for sport. Like, you know when to boo, you know when to cheer. It's theater, right? And he is good at it. We'd be delusional to pretend that he's not good at it, right? But every once in a while, even he won't know what should be next. Like I was watching this rally where I think he was going on like immigration, then he was going on like finances and Wall Street and stuff, and then out of nowhere he just started talking about the water pressure in America. And you could tell people who had just been cheering were like, yeah, oh, yeah, I guess. Nah, I mean, he's not wrong. I have felt that too. Like, I felt like this man was railing about immigration, and out of nowhere, he's like, there's no like the shower don't hit. The toilets don't flush where you want them to flush. It take 3 flushes. This man literally was like, it take 3 flushes. What are we doing, people? The washing machine doesn't get the stains out. Like,
It really was like this political thing that quickly turned into like how his day was going. And honestly, it's the most relatable he's ever been to me, because I was like, nah, he not wrong. Sometimes when you at a hotel, it does drip on you, and you're like, nah, I need power. I need that masseuse setting in the shower. Yeah? This is, okay, look. This has bothered me for a long time, and I know nobody cares because it's like barely topical anymore, but there's a case against Trump, one of many, right? There's a case against Trump with the classified documents. Now, a lot of people say that's going to get thrown out. A lot of these are probably going to get thrown out, right? But the classified documents case, I don't have proof. I like to think I'm not like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but for real, I don't have proof. So what I'm telling you is me just talking to y'all because we're friends, okay? So I'm just telling you what I think. I'm not telling you that like the prosecutor can even pull him up on this. I'm just saying that this is what I think, right? So the classified document, he basically, in case you don't know, took a lot of documents with him when he left the White House, right? And they went to Mar-a-Lago and retrieved a bunch of them. And they were in all sorts of different rooms. Like they were in the closet. Some of them were in the bathroom. There's all this stuff like that. Now, the speech that he gave, the rally he gave that I was talking about before, was towards the end of his presidency. And I think this is what I think happened. He started bringing up the water pressure. I'm pretty sure he tried to flush documents that day. Before the rally, like they were like, Mr. President, we have to go. Like we have to go. We're going to be late. And he's like, you know, he read something that didn't seem good. Everybody jokes he can't read. The man can read. He probably read it and was like, this one. And then he flush it, and because it's printer paper, it doesn't go down like toilet tissue. So then after the third flush, it's not going down. He's like, this country is doomed. All right, this should have been gone down. And so then when they went to Mar-a-Lago and there were all the documents stocked up to the ceiling in the bathroom, people were like, why were there documents in the bathroom? I think that those were unflushed documents. I think that I don't have any proof of what I'm saying. Take it all with a grain of salt. We're here to have fun. But no, I do think Trump's team is a bit nervous because the agreement for the debate had like very specific stipulations that like some people were saying were fair, some people were saying were deeply unfair and everything, but a lot of it just doesn't play to what Trump is good at. You know what I mean? Trump is good with a crowd, and they didn't want to have a crowd, stuff like that. And I don't know. As much as I, pick on Biden about talking, Trump has his stuff too. Like, I remember that time he tried to say origins. In case you haven't seen the clip, it's phenomenal. Basically, it's rough, because I'm not even kidding, I'm being real with y'all for a second. I did feel bad for him in that moment, because you can tell he know the word. You can tell he's trying to say orange, or he's trying to say origins, and he keeps saying oranges. But he doesn't mean to. It's like when you keep texting the same auto-corrected word and you don't mean to, you know what I mean? Like your friend texts you something crazy and you try to text back like, fuck, and then you end up texting back duck, and then you text duck again. And then you text duck one more time. And then you get upset, so you just text damn it. Like, that's... Because he knew the word. He really did. He was like, the oranges of it. And you can tell he got a little embarrassed because he know he on TV and everything, and so he tries to back up. He's like, the oranges. The oranges. It was like watching somebody with their phone but in his mouth. He was like, and I was also like, he need to tell his mouth to act right, because I can tell his brain knows the word, because he kept saying oranges. It's like, the oranges, the beginnings. Where it starts, the oranges, the one thing I wish we would have got more of, because it was spectacular to watch, was a real, like, Trump versus DeSantis. We didn't really get it. You know what I mean? Like Trump just started smoking him off his like swag, and then DeSantis dropped out. But I want them to go. I want them to debate. That's what I want to see. That's what the world needs. Those two debating, getting at it, and not about policy or anything. Because honestly, they both have shots for each other that would go harder than Kendrick and Drake. Like. Trump and DeSantis in a debate, all Trump has to do is, you know, do his thing. I'm the president you love, and whatever. And then DeSantis can just be like, well, I served in the military. Where were you? You know? There was one roast that Trump got in on DeSantis that was particularly spectacular. It was fire, right? Because everybody was making fun of DeSantis for wearing heels, because we couldn't tell if he was wearing heels or not, because he always was like, his height is weird. There's pictures where he's next to people and he's taller than them, and then there's pictures where he's next to other people who are the same height as the other people he was taller than, and he's the same height as them. So people were like, he's wearing platform shoes, he's got to be. And then Trump, ooh, it was cold. It's one of the coldest things I've seen him do in a long time. So Trump was explaining the shoes out of nowhere at a rally for no reason. Nobody said anything. He was talking about infrastructure. He was talking about how bad Biden is. And then out of nowhere, he was like, hey, have you seen DeSantis' shoes? They're weird. When he said they're weird, I paused, and I went and popped some popcorn, because I was like, he's about to light him up. And then this clip did not get passed around as much as it should have, but basically he was describing the shoe, and he was like, you can't tell it's a platform shoe because it's a heel inside. Like, Trump has trouble with the word origins, but he roasted this man so articulately. Like, just, he was like, no, there's a platform within the shoe, so it looks flat at the bottom, but up top, you know, he's on his tiptoes, and you can tell when he walks. I'm not even kidding, Trump did this. You can tell when he walks because he goes like this. Wow. That's my main thing with the debate, too. Biden versus Trump debating. Again, we didn't get anything out of the last one that they did, you know what I mean? And I just think, okay, I do think it would be funny if, remember, we're here to have fun. It would be funny to be cool. It would be funny to me if during the debate, one of them died. Like, that was, like, that's... I see some of y'all, no. We're here to have fun. We're here to have fun. Don't do that. No. Cut it out. You know that is, because these are very old men. They're both so old, they both used to be president. Like, yes. Do you know how old you have to be to used to be? The job you don't get until you're 70? That would be very funny if mid-debate one of them just tip and die. And then the other one's like, I rest my case.